These eerie beacons transmit a Morse code signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But why? What we're hearing is what is known as an NDB, or non-directional beacon. It's a radio transmitter at a fixed, known location that's used as an aviation navigational aid, and they were previously used by mariners in days gone by. The signal doesn't include any directional information compared to other navigational aids such as low-frequency radio range, VHF omnidirectional range or VOR, and TACAN. Apart from a Morse code identifier, they can also broadcast things like ATIS, AWIS, AWOS, ASOS, Volmet, and T-Web. Now, this is a radio channel, so I'm not going to go into the intricacies of how these work on the aircraft side. Instead, I'll tell you about the radio side of things, how you can hear them, what makes them so attractive to listeners, and of course it wouldn't be a Ringway Manchester video without taking a visit to one. NDBs are quite popular amongst long-distance radio enthusiasts, also known as DXers. Because they usually transmit at low power, typically 25 watts or so for the most part, although some can be up to 5 kilowatts, they usually can't be heard at short distances. When the ionosphere works in our favour, however, we can hear them from many hundreds of miles away and from all sorts of different places. For example, propagation conditions blessed me with some German NDBs when I was making some recordings for this video. I also managed to catch a French one and also one in Finland. Each NDB is identified by a 1, 2 or 3-letter Morse code call sign. You don't need any expensive equipment or huge antennas to listen into these stations. Small pocket shortwave radios can do the job, especially towards dusk and late evening. This time of year, as we approach winter, is also a good time to listen, as there's less noise around this portion of the spectrum. They typically operate in the frequency range of 190 kHz to 535 kHz, although they are allocated frequencies from 190 to 1750 kHz, and transmit a carrier modulated either at 400 or 1020 Hz. If you struggle with radio noise where you are, or don't have a shortwave radio that enables you to hear these beacons, then some online SDRs go down the spectrum that far, meaning you'll be able to hear them, although it does take the fun out of DXing. NDBs have long been used by aircraft navigators and previously mariners to help obtain a fix of their geographic location on the surface of the Earth. Fixes are computed by extending lines through known navigational reference points until they intersect. NDB signals follow the curvature of the Earth. Yes, the Earth isn't flat, so they can be received by aircraft at much greater distances at lower altitudes, which is a significant advantage over a system such as a VOR. Their signals are, however, affected by atmospheric conditions, mountainous terrain, coastal refraction, and electrical storms, particularly at long ranges. There are 4 different types of aeronautical non-directional beacons: en route NDBs used to mark airways, approach NDBs, localizer beacons, and locator beacons. The one I've been showing you is Whitegate NDB. It sits alone in dense forest deep in the heart of Cheshire, and transmits its Morse code signal 24 hours a day. It's a beacon that belongs to the National Air Traffic Service, and the transmitter's constant Morse broadcast spells the letters WHI, which serves as an identifier for aircraft in the area. It sits 17.5 miles on the exact centreline of Manchester Airport's runway 05 left, and consists of what looks like an antenna on the top of a mast, but in fact the whole thing is the antenna with a capacitive hat on top. The tower structure above these insulators is the antenna itself. At the base is a small equipment building. NDB radiators are vertically polarised. Their antennas are usually too short to be resonant at the frequency they operate on, so they require a suitable matching network that may consist of an inductor and a capacitor to tune the antenna. Vertical NDBs such as Whitegate have a T antenna, nicknamed a top hat at the top, to add loading at the end. A ground plane or counterpoise is usually connected underneath the antenna. Here at Whitegate, the hat on the top adds parallel capacitance to counteract the reactive portion of the load, which exists because the tower is significantly shorter than a resonant quarter wave, for example. I sometimes get asked to talk about things in layman's terms, so the umbrella part makes the tower look, in inverted commas, bigger to the transmitter, and allows it to match into it. The tower is short, so it causes a high angle of radiation, so the signal is receivable up in the sky, but not too far away. Remember how I said Whitegate sits 17.5 miles on the exact centreline of Manchester's runway 05 left? Well, if we go 15.9 miles in the opposite direction on the centreline of runway 23 right, we come to this. This was the home of Oldham NDB. It sat on Scout Head Moor high above the town of Oldham and used to transmit a Morse code signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just like Whitegate.
Just very good afternoon, Tyrone 767, level maintaining 70 Oldham.
The transmitter's constant Morse broadcast spelt OLD as an identifier for aircraft in the area on 344 kHz. Like Whitegate, it would have consisted of a capacitive hat on the top of a mast forming the antenna itself. Oldham was known as the pivotal point before the Pole Hill locator until its removal sometime during the early 2000s. Modern technology is probably the reason why Oldham was removed. The equipment and antennas have all been taken away, but the small brick building still stands, albeit repurposed into a shed. Interestingly, the old NAT sign is still on the gate. Modern technological advances in things like satellite navigation systems and GPS have caused the slow removal of many thousands of NDBs around the world, and as time goes on, many more will disappear too.